Hello everyone, this is Fan Politics Asia. This situation report for the day of 1272 to 1275 for the 18th to the 21st of August. God, I dread doing SITREP because it's gonna be so long. So yeah, we're gonna just start from the Sumi front. And the Sumi, however, there's something interesting is happening over in the border region but there is not actually the front line. So fighting is being reported over in Stara Huta, Nova Huta, and Havrilova, Sloboda. So although I just want to have a bit of a disclaimer, the Gavrilovo, which is actually mentioned as Havrilovo, but well, whatever it is, there is no Sloboda behind it. But I cannot find a location that is makes sense. So this will be reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. So I tentatively put it here because this is where the concentration of fighting is being reported. Stara Huta is mentioned by the Russians, and Nova Huta is also mentioned by the Russians. So there's some kind of things happening along this sector of the border. Very, very curious. Yeah, so we shall see whether this will turn out to be something, or is this yet another attempt to stretch the Ukrainians further. So they care about the Ukrainians a lot. Like before you do any exercise, you need to do stretching. It's good for health. This is yoga. So anyway, that's it. So over in the main front line at Sumi, over the Tekino sector, we have fighting being reported over in Katerinivka as well as Stepney, and there is your location of Ukrainians position over in Yastrubine. Geolocation of Russian forces at Vasilivka, where they raised the flag, but that's about it. So we shall continue to monitor this pretty one of each. Over in the northern region, the main front line, shelling is being reported at Rusivka. Rusivka. I put this at Rudnivka. Did I get it correctly? Oh, it's correct. It's Rudnivka. I actually spelled this wrongly. Yeah, I thought I made a mistake. And fighting is being reported in Andrievka, Oleksievka, Verskina, Overskine, Yunakivka, Saki, Marine, Novosich, and shelling is reported at Kinyatsia. So that, or Kinyanisia, but that's all. Basically, no change in terms of the strategic situation, pretty much more or less the same thing. So that's all from the Sumi front. We will go on to the Kharkiv front, or Kharkiv front. So at the Kharkiv front, we have fighting being reported at Udi, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Probably some shelling, but yeah, something here, but probably shelling, like I said. And over in the Lipsy sector, we have mention of Klipoke, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Some fighting reported in this area. I think it's just skirmishes, nothing particularly, very significant. Lisney is mentioned, this is shelling, I guess. Over in the Voshansk sector, we have fighting being reported at Voshansk, Stenenikove, Hartishev, and Taike. So that's the main area. So the Voshansk sector is still pretty much there's a grinding zone. There is not much change in terms of the sector here. So that's the main front line in this sector. Moving further on to the Vrishna front. So Vrishna is here. Over in the north, we have fighting reported in the Milove sector. Fighting is reported at Milove, Ambarne, as well as Karne. So this continues to be the thing. And further south, from this position, we have fighting reported at Kinyamka, Kolozyazne, as shelling is reported at Katerinivka, and also in Fiholivka. So that is the situation here. I'm not sure if my accent is correct or not. No, I'm trying to pronounce it in a proper accent. Yeah, the Russians, you guys tell me, and all the Ukrainians, for that matter. So because I'm pronouncing it in the Ukrainian matter, right? The way, right? Because the G is all become H. And so nothing particularly stands out for me in my opinion. So that's all. Over in the Kupiansk front. This is Kupiansk. In the north of Kupiansk, fighting is reported over in Zapadne, Dorashevka, Kontrashevka, Moskovka, Holubivka, Kupiansk, Sinkivka, and Petropavlivka. And geolocation of this is describe Ukrainian attack. Yeah, this is a Russian geolocation. So what happened to my mapping? It disappeared, or is it still there? Yeah, Russian forces is geolocated inside of Kupiansk, and so meaning the Russians are still concentrating in this northern sector of Kupiansk. But the most shocking news was this: Russian forces appear in the middle of Kupiansk again. This is like the second time this had happened. I did not stretch the mapping up to this point because there is no clear indication where the Russians come from. So this is just what we have at this moment. So Russians keep on teleporting. Like they cannot fight fair. They just keep cheating. No cheating. Come on, You have to go from A1 then A2 and A3. You don't just jump. You're not a rook. Over in the southern flank of the Kupiansk front, shelling is reported at Osinovo, Sankove, and then fighting is reported towards Novo Osinove, towards Bischane, as well as Stepova, Novoselivka. So generally still largely more or less the same. There's nothing particularly stands out in this sector. Moving on to the Borova front. This is wrong color. So oops. I reload. So that's happened. Lately, this Google My Maps has been very buggy. Like when I'm be a bit too fast, it start to hang. It's very irritating. So I cannot work faster than I usually do. Fightings reported at Borovska, Andrievka, Zelenihai, Novosahievka, Sheneskina, and Stepove. Then so there's some kind of a concentration of attack along this line over this past 4 days. But I'm really pondering about doing daily SITREPs again, because I find that when I do multiple days SITREP, I feel the reports are very watered down. I know some of you guys don't care. You guys like watered down reports. But I don't know. I find that a lot of details is lost because it's all compressed into one report. But I'm not sure. I'm thinking because it is hard to manage my time, and it's very draining. To do SITREP because it's a long report. So let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. So we go on to the Oscu front. Actually, I can zoom out a bit. And yeah, so this makes it looks nicer. So anyway, in the Oscu front, fighting is reported at Rakivka, Ohievka, Andrievka, Novimaya, Kurup, as well as Karpivka. So this fighting continues along this line. Nothing special. Still pretty much more or less the routine. Further south from this position, which is the northern flank of the Liman front, we have fighting reported at Serine, Sandrikholove, Zelena Dolena, Koloziasny, Merne. Shellings reported at Novoselivka. It could also be an attack directly towards Novoselivka. That's also possible. And shellings reported at Drobisheve, which also could be an attack directly at Drobisheve. Actually, I should rethink, and maybe I can turn this into an attack icon, because this is not impossible. So this front line is really vulnerable, and this concerns the northern flank of the Liman front, and yeah, the Liman is over here, and the main core concern, I think, is from this region the Russian forces can go towards Izium, and so this and Izium is super important. Like I mentioned long time ago, and this is also where the Russians previously captured. Once Russians have Izium, they can do the massive pincer to encircle Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. And this is already starting to happen, because you can see on this macro map, the Russians has already have some kind of developments in the south. So a push towards Oskil, which is over here, and then Izium, and then push south, would make this a possibility. This is a big arrow movement. This is a very big arrow movement. So just to tell you the situation right now, for the Ukrainians, the things that is facing them. The Russians, of course, they have the options because they are on the offensive. They can choose where to go, who to attack, what they want to do. The Ukrainians can only react, and so that is the situation right now. In the southern flank of the Liman front, things is unraveling really fast. Fighting is reported at Zarishne, and geolocation of Russian forces attacking from the south as well, creating some kind of a pincer attack, a two-pronged attack on this on Zarishne. Russian forces have taken this alleged encirclement, or the result of the mapping between DPA and Deep State UA. The combined mapping caused encirclement that is closed off by the Ukrainian mapping, and then the Russian forces, according to the Ukrainians, have some big developments within the Serbiansky forestry. Russian forces have secured Dibrova in the west. This is a long this front line here in the west of Dibrova has been there for a long time. The Russians finally have overrun it, and they are now pushing towards Dronivka. Within the wider forest, the Russians have also advanced further, and they continue to attack towards Serbianka and perhaps also towards Hrihorivka. And the fighting is moving in the direction of Yampil as well. So things are looking really bad. So this area here, this is Dronivka. So the Russians are making very, very big moves over in the Liman front. And I am not sure how much more the Ukrainians can take in this sector here. This has been this front line has been really fierce for a long time. So let's see. Let's see how this goes. Whether there will be more collapse of the front line, because this is a very big collapse. Like this chunk here is 18.2 square kilometers. This is a big chunk for the Ukrainians to lose. So moving on to the next front line, the Siversk front. So this Siversk, at the northern flank of the Siversk front, as mentioned, the Russians are pushing towards Dronivka, which is over here. Through the Serbiansky forestry, they are fighting reported as Serbianka, and the Russians are advancing in the south of Hrihorivka. They have also closed down along the river in the north of Hrihorivka as well, according to the Ukrainian mapping. Fighting is still reported in the region around Siversk as well as Verkhamokanyamsky. So Yampil is over here. There's Yampil. The Russians are pushing towards there through the forest. So that's the current situation in the northern flank of the Siversk front. The Russians are trying to straighten the front line. This strategic move is not changing. I mentioned this at least more than a month ago now. So far, the Ukrainians are putting up a very, very strong fight. They are sacrificing their troops to hold back the Russians as much as they can. Over in the southern flank of the Siversk front, fighting is reported at Vimka. Geolocation confirmed Russian presence as the Russians secured Ivano-Darivka, and fighting is reported at Berezhny, Fedorivka, and Vasilkivka. So all these areas pretty much standard. These are all like routine. I would say very routine right now. So let's see whether this will continue to make any big change in the future. Moving into the Bakhmut front. So this is Bakhmut. In the northern flank of the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported towards Minkivka and Markove. Nothing special about this. Over in the Chastivya in the region in the southern flank of the Bakhmut front. So Bakhmut is here, and this is Konstantinivka. And fighting is reported at Chasivya, Mykolaievka, Shevone, Steposhki, Priteshny, and the Russian forces have advanced out of the canal and they're starting to move in the direction of Priteshny. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces off Podilsky, shelling is reported at Novodimitrivka as well as Konstantinivka. So there's this push. I think this is a bit more serious, as I mentioned quite a number of times. The Russians are trying to build the wall wall, not literal, no, wall as in no, basically just an encirclement to close off Konstantinivka. So this push, no, is what is happening. This is what they're trying to do here. Further in the south from this position into the Thorax front. So this is Thorax. Over in the Thorax front, we have fighting reported at Bilahora. Developments over in Alessandro Shutine. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Alessandro Shutine, but we don't have the geolocation to confirm this yet. We only have geolocation to confirm the Russians have entered into it. So further on, there is fighting reported over in Ivanopilia, Nelipivka, Pleshievka, Klebambik, Katerinivka. I'm not sure which direction it's coming from. Thorax, Skibenivka. Fighting is reported over at Alessandro Kalinove and Yablunivka. So this is the action. You can see very, very strong, a lot of fighting around here. The Ukrainians are still in this pocket. Now this is impossible salient. Not very impossible, but quite impossible. The Ukrainians are doing their best to hold the grounds. Despite strategically, it's already lost. Like this is already a gone case scenario. But somehow the Ukrainians are very adamant at holding grounds that is already is largely considered lost. It's like a lost game, in chess. Like your opponents have already 3 queens. They have promoted two pawns into queens. They have 3 queens, and you have no queen, and you're still fighting on. So yeah, very brave. But the shelling, Russian airstrike in Ivanopilia, shelling is reported at Berestov. The Ukrainians actually mentioned Berestov, which means the Russians may be actually advancing down on Berestov, coming from the Yablunivka region. So this is something to take note of. This is Yablunivka. The fighting reported by the Ukrainians largely. So the measure of Berestov is very weird. It's a one-off. So we shall see what this really means over time. So that's the front line. Let me move everything so you can see a bit better. Yeah. There's the situation here in the Thorax front. Yeah, looking quite bad. Like as usual, it's always bad. Moving on to the northern flank of the or the eastern flank, whatever you call it, of the Pokrovsk front. So fighting is reported over towards Stepanivka, Rusinya, Potavka, Popivya. Geolocation confirming the Russians have advanced in the north of Popivya and Potavka. So this push is confirmed as they move in the direction of Sofievka. Fighting is reported at Shakhove. Fighting also moving towards Toretsk, Volodymyrivka, and geolocation confirmed the Russians closing down the salient in the north of Novotoretsk. And so the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Pankivka. Fighting is reported at Maryat, and another geolocation confirmed the Russians advance in the north of Maryat. So there's a situation here. Very, somewhat complicated, but it's all right. The main complications is still coming from the breakout zone. Breakout zone is causing all the big mess. So if I move the map up to the breakout zone, so this basically is here. Something like this. Okay, so the Russian forces geolocated at Petrivka, and as well as Zoloty Kolosias, as well as of Kusherevya. So all these have resulted in extension of the Russian controlled front line by quite significant distance. The advance is pretty far. We're talking about a distance of like 6, almost 7 kilometers. The Russians are now attacking at Rubizny, Stepi, Vilny, and Rubizny is mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry, Stepi is mentioned by the Russians, Vilny is mentioned by the Russians. So the Ukrainians did not mention any of this. Zoloty Kolosias is also mentioned by the Russians, it's a Russian source. Toretsk is mentioned by the Russians. So all these regions far away into the breakout zone is mentioned by the Russians. So the Ukrainians don't mention it because the Ukrainian narrative is that they have already destroyed this breakout. So take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not sure what's the real situation. Maybe the Russians are just shelling the Ukrainian position, or maybe the Russians are still there. It's still pretty much a fog of war, not entirely confirmed. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces in Zoloty Kolosias is noted. So the clash is here. There is still some frontline action around that sector. So that's the main gist of the situation in this sector. As mentioned just now, the Toretsk was mentioned by the Russians. So the Russians are pushing eastward from this breakout zone. Moving further south, into the north of Minograd. So fighting is reported at Nikhanorevka, Dorozhne, Bilitsky. Russian defense ministry announced the capture of Suketsky. Fighting is reported at Rodinsky, Shovony Liman, Zatishok, Fedorivka, and then Novoekonomichny, as well as Mykolaievka. So this Zatishok, Fedorivka, these are all mentioned by the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainian narrative is that the fighting has moved south. So the Dorozhny is mentioned by the Russian and Ukrainians, Bilitsky is mentioned by the Russian and Ukrainians. So there is some so there's some confirmed situation, which the front line is confirmed to be around here. So the front line is definitely around this sector here. And Rodinsky is mentioned by both Russian and Ukrainians as well. So definitely the Russians are here as well. So some of the front line is pretty much more confirmed, but it's the breakout zone again, like I said, is creating all the mess right now in this Minograd region. So moving further south, we go into the Pokrovsk Minograd sector. So I accidentally pressed that. So just mentioned just now, fighting is reported at Mykolaievka, Marolivka. So further on, we have fighting reported at Khodivka, towards Minograd, Balahan, Promin, Lysivka, Novopalivka, Shunishine, Novoukrenka, Vrfrove, as well as Kotliny. Fighting is also mentioned at Pokrovsk. And yeah, multiple geolocation of Russian airstrikes was noted in Minograd. And so the Russians are bombarding the Ukrainians over in the city of Minograd. Maybe they want to storm it, not sure. So and I did see on the DPA Discord, someone was asking me about the Pokrovsk, the Battle of Pokrovsk. Why is still not over? Why is the city still not fallen? Actually, in my perspective, the Battle of Pokrovsk have not even started. So the Russians geolocated inside of Pokrovsk. Those are recon the sabotage troops. They are the DRGs. I don't particularly note them as the main offensive. There is, of course, some fighting around Pokrovsk, but there is no clear indication that there is a real concerted effort by the Russian forces to actually storm Pokrovsk. So the Battle of Pokrovsk, in my opinion, have not even started. So similar situation in Minograd, it has not started yet. So that's my perspective. Take it for what it's worth, which is nothing. It's worth nothing. It's utterly pointless to listen to me. But you're here. So press the like button, subscribe, and also happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And we're gonna go on from this front line to the next sector, which is the western flank. So the western flank, we have fighting reported at Udashny, Volodetsky, Mykolaievka, Moravka. Russian forces advance in the region of Kotelivka, and Novopalivka is mentioned. So, which is here. So that's the main gist. The Russians are still active. Definitely. They're trying to maybe go towards the Dnipro-Petrov Oblast. Maybe. Because now I would say that it's not even a priority for the Russians to really go to the Oblast border, because they are playing some games on the Putin's level, and we are not sure what that game is at this moment. So everybody's guessing. So that's what it is. We move on to the Komar front. So over on the Oleksievka sector, Oleksievka is actually here, which the front line have already moved on pretty far away. So we have fighting reported over in, let me move, at Horikove, Dashny, towards Filia. This push towards Filia is pretty serious. It's already mentioned by both Russians and the Ukrainians. So this push towards Filia is a real thing. It's a pretty significant thing, as the Ukrainian mapping have started to update the map to show that the Russians indeed have fully captured all of the grounds in the south of the river. Despite they still mention Khrushchevsky as well as Zerka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, for some unknown reasons. Ukrainians attacked Tolstoy. Russians counterattack. Ukrainians geolocated there, confirming some captures by the Ukrainians. Fighting still reported at Zeleny High and Ivanivka. So, and also the Ukrainians have taken back, have claimed that the line is further here, which you probably cannot see. So I'm going to push all the way here. So the Ukrainians have fight the Russians at Alexandrov-Kletsove, which is also known as Iskra. They are fighting in this sector here. So this is the main gist of the situation in this north of Komar front. And we're going to go further to the next front line, further south in this position. Dibrova is mentioned, but very far away, not important. Over on the west of Komar, you can see this front line is also very messy. Fighting is reported at Oleksandrograd. Voskresenka, Russian forces secure Melievka. Fighting is reported at Shifneve, Shevchenko, towards Voronezh. It's important to note Voronezh is mentioned to be captured by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 16th of August. So this is allegedly captured, according to the Russians, but no confirmation from geolocation yet. Fighting is reported towards Komishuvakha. So this turnover, shelling is there. Veliko Mikhailivka. Lizne is mentioned, probably an attack from Oleksandrograd. And shelling is reported at Oleksievka. Another Oleksievka. There's a lot of repeated names in Ukraine, so just get used to it. I'm already used to it. Here comes Taiki. There's Taiki here as well. Same as the Kharkiv front. So that's the situation here. Moving further south, whoops. I think I just clear. So in the south, or the southern flank of the Komar front, so the Russian forces have a big capture around the west of Venepole. According to the Ukrainian mapping, the Russian forces have made some big advance there. Fighting is reported at Zelenopole, towards Komishuvakha, maybe coming from Venepole. Russian forces captured Novohiovka. This is geolocated, confirmed. And then the Russians have now started to flank the north of Obradne. Fighting is reported at Temerivka as well, Novopil, Novodarivka. Shelling is reported at Ternova, Berezdove, and fighting is reported at Zaporizhzhia. And also fighting is reported at Novokhrihorivka. So very complicated front line as well. A lot of fighting all over the place. And yeah, I imagine you are the Ukrainian commander and you have to defend all of these front lines, which is all super messy. How do you deploy your troops? I have no idea how you're going to deploy your troops. It's like, everywhere is a death trap. So moving further south, we go into the Huyaipole sector of the Zaporizhzhia front. This is Huyaipole, and the Russian forces have a big capture around Levadne, and they have now moved into attacking Ohivsky. Fighting is also reported at Potavka and Dorozhianka. So that's the current situation. This action here, this big arrow movement, is a major collapse of the front line, as they are supporting the actions in the Komar front. They're probably going to flank north soon, I guess, or perhaps they're going to flank south and to take out Potovka. That's the current situation here. Moving to the next front line, the Orikhiv sector of the Zaporizhzhia front. This Orikhiv, shelling is reported at Shevona Kritnitsia. Fighting is reported at Bilokhaya, Malatomashka, towards Orikhiv, and Novoandrievka. Nothing particularly special about this. Pretty routine. Over in the Kayamsky sector, we have fighting reported. So this Kayamsky, by the way, this is the Kayamsky sector. Fighting is reported over in Mali Shibaki, Testepove,
Kanyamske, Stepnohursk, and interestingly, Primorske is mentioned, and the Russians are allegedly now pushing towards Primorske, and this is mentioned by both Russian and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Both Russia and Ukraine mentioned this on the 20th of August, so which is a one-off, but it's interesting that they both mentioned that. The Ukrainians mentioned it as the Russians pushing in that direction, whereas the Russians just simply mentioned that place. So it could be shelling, so it could be just push in the direction. I don't know. So we shall see. Although we have no confirmation of Russians' capture of Plavny, nor have the Russians allegedly captured Stepnohursk as well. So both information does not exist. So fighting is unlikely to be at Primorske. So it could be just shelling. But otherwise, that's the situation in the Kayamske sector. And we go on to the last front line, the Kherson front or the Kherson front. So now you know why I dread the SITREP. I myself is too drained after so many years of reporting the SITREP. Shelling is reported at Novoberislav, Tokarivka, Puentantivka, Mikhailske, Sadove, Antonivka, Belozerka, Dniprovske, and fighting is reported towards the Antonovsky Bridge and over in the Biluhrudi island, as well as what is this place? Odrado Kanyamka is also shelled. So largely nothing particularly very special. It's just that the Russians is interestingly pushing for the bridge, at least the control of half the bridge, maybe. And but still at this moment, no clear signs of a large-scale offensive into the northern half of the Kherson front. So that's it. That's it. So no, that's it. No, do you press the like button? Do you subscribe? No, check. Even you are subscribed, check. Make sure that you are not unsubscribed secretly by YouTube, because they do that. Like really, every day they unsubscribe people. Like it's not normal for people to unsubscribe. Like it's not a usual user. Like for us viewers of YouTube chat videos, right? No, how many times do we actually unsubscribe? We don't, right? Like unless we really disagree with that person very much, and then you want to unsubscribe. Usually people don't unsubscribe. That's not a normal thing. But every day there's a lot of people unsubscribing, and so must be YouTube. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. Arigatou gozaimasu, and I'll see you guys in the next update.